the Aron HaKodesh taken into captivity, but that's a clear desecration of God's name. What did we learn here in Parakeh? That wherever the Aron is taken to whatever town or city, there's great havoc, there's great tumult. The Philistine are being punished, it seems. The question is if they see it that way or do not see it that way. Remember let's just trace for just purpose of review. First, the Aron was taken to where? To Beit Dagon, and there it experienced a breaking of the Pesal of the Beit Dagon. Then it affected the people in Ashdod. So after affecting the god of the Philistine, it affected the people of Ashdod. Then the Aron was transferred because they were further hit. Who? The priests, the religious people of the Dagon idolatry, they were hit. With what were they hit with? Okay? They were hit with hemorrhoids. Now, we'll see later in this chapter that there was also economic devastation. There was a plague of mice coming into their plantations, into their fields, and destroying whatever's cultivated there. So that even hurt them in the pocket, where it's even hurt more. Once the people of Ashdod saw both the economic and the personal devastation, they got rid of it and sent the Aron Elokei Yisrael to where? Where's the next city? Ekron. Once it hit Ekron, the people in Ekron were, the Tanakh says they were screaming out. They can't stand it. They don't want it. And therefore the ministers of the Philistine said, well, we don't want to have a mumat mavet there. And now this is the deliberation. What do they do? So it's sent out of Ekron. And if we just think for a moment, if you were a reporter for international news between the Philistine and Israel, you would say at the end of the war and the captivity of the Aron, what's happening to the psyche of the Philistine people? What's happening to their feelings? They're on a big high, aren't they? Big high. Destroyed us in a war, destroyed the Mishkan in Shiloh, and took the Aron. They're really on a big high. What does God do to them? He brings them down. Their God is lowered and destroyed. They're economically devastated. There are people that are dying in their cities. So you clearly see that God is hitting them back. But what I wanted to say, the point is that Rav Ariel brings also, if God's name was desecrated because they saw God in the Aron HaKodesh, they said, this ark represents God. And therefore they put it alongside their own God in the Beit Dagon. So they're thinking their God is stronger than our God. So that's a Chilul Hashem. Remember, the Jewish people care what the nations of the world think about the God of Israel. That's the entire theme of the prayer of Moshe Rabbeinu after Chet HaEgel. What will the Goyim say? Do you remember that? And therefore here we see Chilul Shem Hashem. Because the Plishtim see that their God is stronger. What does Hashem do? He punishes their God. He's not punishing the people first. He first punishes their God, because that will be the midah keneged midah. That'll be like the tikkun, that they shouldn't think that they're on a big high and their God is stronger than us. Only thereafter, what does Hashem do? He punishes the people of the Plishtim. Yes?
At 2 o'clock. Is that Timidi?
There's someone usually has it, but he hasn't been well until now. You like it? I'm sorry you're starting to like it. Great chavrut, I know. I know people like it. Say that. Okay. Kol hakavod. Thank you. So that's how this parak ends. To make it clear, it's not the name of Israel that's being sanctified, but rather it is the name of the God of Israel that was now sanctified. And they have a dilemma. Let's now begin. Where no nation wants, no city of the Plishtim wants to take them. So let's start reading now the events that happen here in Perek Vav. Bavakasha Matanya, Pasuk Aleph. Vayihi. Bet.
לפלישתים, לכהנים ולקוסמים, לאמור מה נעשה לארון השם, הודיעונו במה נשלחנו למקומו.
גמור.
ואמרו אם משלחים את אהרון אלוהי ישראל אל תשלחו אותו, וגם כי תשיבו לו אשם, אז תרפו, ונודע לכם למה לא תסור ידו מכם.
ד'
ואמרו מה האשם אשר נשיב לו, ואומרו מספר סרני פלישתים 5 תאורי זהב, ו5 חברי זהב כמגפה אחת, וכולם וסרניכם.
כן. I'll finish out one more pasuk K. This is the advice of the Plishtim ministers. Vasitem tzalmei afolechem v'tzalmei achberechem hamashchitim et haaretz unetatem leElohei Yisrael kavod ulai yakel et yado me'alechem u'me'al Elohechem u'me'al artzechem. Okay, let's just stop here at the end of pasuk 5. Something really weird happens here. We're told that no city absorbed the Aron because they suffered losses, terrible losses. Instead, where is the Aron Hashem? In the fields, not in the city, not in the urban area, because there it's been causing havoc, tumult, economic loss, and also killing people. People are dying and in pain. Rather, it's in a field of the Plishtim. It's not in the city. People don't live in the field. And the Tanakh bothers to tell us that it's there for 7 months. So we're asking a basic question. We have here number 1 on our sheet here. Okay, what's the significance? Okay, what's the significance of the Tanakh telling us that the Aron is in the Plishtim area 7 months? Let's remember, it's not a history book. What's so important that it's there 7 months? What does 7 represent apparently? What does the number 7 philosophically represent? Certainly it's not holiness, the Plishtim. In this case, you can say 7 is holy. Okay? You watch this guy play with the dice, he has 6 sides to the dice, and the 7th is above, right? 7 is the metaphysical, usually representing. But 7 is an entire ma'agal. It's a ma'agal shalem. It's a complete period of time. 7 days in a week. It's a cycle of time. Apparently, 7 months here represents what the Malbim explains here, is a continuous period. It's month after month after month. It's a continuous period. It's a ma'agal shalem. It's not incidental. They don't know what to do. If they don't know what to do, and therefore let's leave it here. And a lack of action. So that's right now where the leaders are leaving it in the field, not doing anything. That's one understanding. Another understanding, by the way, for us, the fact that the Aron HaKodesh is still in their territory, what does it mean for the Jewish people? And the God of it's horrible. It's like Hefker. Or the God of Israel is like Hefker. The Aron Elokim, okay, is the one produced by Moshe Rabbeinu in the Mishkan that was produced and sent over the Jordan River, and now it's still there. It sounds like, by default we're in a bad situation. So I want you to let's look what the eyes of Chazal say. Let's go to source number 1 on this sheet. We see Breshit Kafal, if we'll get to in 2 weeks from now. Okay, in Parshat Vayera, we see about a development between Avram Avinu and the Plishtim. Vayikach Avram tzonu vakar, vayitein lavimelech vayichrutu shneim brit. There's a covenant being made. We won't hurt you. You won't hurt us. And Avram here is taking tzonu vakar and giving to Avimelech to make sure that no losses are going to be made. Remember, Avram is only a person. He's not an entity, where Avimelech has an army.
It's a question, like how many people has Avram with him? Like how many?
Not the thousands or tens of thousands of people, no. And now we want to make a peace track, a peace treaty. What does Avram do? Vayatzev Avram et sheva kifsot tatzon levadem. He puts aside, separates 7 of his sheep, okay, to put it aside. And then Avimelech asks him, Vayom Avimelech Avram, Ma hina sheva kifsot ha'ela? What are these 7? Asher yitzavta levadana, that you put aside here. And Avram replies, Vayomer ki et sheva kvasot tikach mi'ad, you take it from me. It'll be yours. Bavor ti'ali le'eda, this will be like testimony. Ki chafarti et habe'er hazot. There'll be no more rift, argument between Avraham and the Plishtim entity. And it seems here that Avraham gave in, made them feel good, giving them 7 sheep. Al kain kara lamakom hahu be'er shava. Ki sham nishba'u shneihem. An oath is being made. Sheva here doesn't represent the number. Remember, if there's purely an oath, we won't hurt you, you will not hurt us. Now, Avraham Avinu acted here out of submission. He acted in the real political world by submitting, giving in. I won't bother you, you won't bother me. Shalom Aleichem, ma nishma? Baruch Shuvcha. Of course. Meet Chanoch, a former Talmid, finished the army, helped his mother out in Florida. This is the hot chair for you. Wow. How long haven't I seen you?
8 months.
Wow. Fantastic. Take the bestseller. Avram Avinu submitted himself. And he gave into the Sheva Kvasot. Is there anything bad about that? I want you to know, where does the Akedah appear? In which chapter?
18, 19?
No, you're guessing.
Yeah, of course.
Where does the Akedah appear? Right after this peace treaty in Perek Kaf Bet. No. In Vayera.
It's 22.
This peace treaty is preceded by Vayachara Devarim Ha'ela. Mamash. The Torah says, right after this event, Ve'Elohim nisat Avram Vayomer Elav Avram Hineni. God challenges Avram Avinu to do the Akedah. Why is the Torah telling us this? Achara Devarim Ha'ela. What's the connection between the two? You know, one of the great Pashtanim of the Rishonim, you're going to say, is Rashi. His grandson, Rashbam, attacked his father, and challenged his grandfather. In Parshat Vayeshev, I think it appears, and saying, Saba, you didn't write you're bringing the Midrash all the time. You're not writing Pshat. The Rashbam challenges his grandfather, and he writes in his commentary at the beginning of Parshat Vayeshev, if I'm not mistaken, that his grandfather said to him, I'm going to have time later in my life, I'm going to write another commentary on the Chumash, that'll be Pshat. That's what the grandfather, Saba Rashi, writes to his grandson. Rashbam says, do you know the correlation between the end of this section of this peace treaty and the beginning of Akedah? Punishment. Punishment to Avraham Avinu for giving in and not claiming part of the land. They made a peace treaty for generations. They're not going to touch one another. And because he submitted, and this is the first Oslo Accord, therefore, the Rashbam says, Avram was like punished, given this hard test to do the Akedah. That's how, in the eyes of the Rashbam. Now, the Rashbam is a Rishon. That's how he explains the smichut of the parshiot, right? The fact that they're juxtaposed. That's how he's explaining it. That's number one. Let's go further back to Chazal. What did Chazal say? Midrash Shmuel, section Bet of the sources on your page here. You can take this as well. Do I have one? Yeah.
I don't understand why this is a direct punishment. Why does it says
Because he should not have given in to Avimelech and made a peace treaty and said, I'm not going to claim the land for these generations.
what does it to do with where's the midah connecting midah here with these two irrelevant things?
Just a punishment.
He's giving him a hard time in life.
The punishments are to me, like for example, when Abraham asks Hashem, like, how will I know? Hashem said, I'll give you this land or whatever. He's like, how will I know? And he says, okay, well, what you will know is that they won't be in this land for 400 years. So it's like,
okay. You know what? Your question is not going to be answered by the Midrash. Not really more how Avraham Avinu is challenged, but what's appearing by us. Midrash Shmuel on Parshat Yud Bet quotes the pasuk that we're dealing with. Vayhi Aron Hashem b'stei Plishtim shiva chodeshim. Right, we're talking about the Mishkan was destroyed in Shiloh. We lost the war against the Plishtim. 2 sons of Eli are killed, Chofni and Pinchas. Eli hears the terrible news. Last Kohen Gadol, he falls back and he dies. And then they exile the Holy Ark. The number 7 here has significance. The Midrash quotes, Vayi Aron Hashem b'stei Plishtim shiva chodeshim. You see where I'm quoting from? Ktiv ki et sheva kivasot v'gomer. It's written by Avraham Avinu that he gave over 7 lambs, 7 sheep, over to the Melech of Plishtim. Remember, Avimelech is Melech Plishtim. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'Avraham, Ata natata lo sheva kvasot. You gave him a freebie. You gave into making a treaty, a peace treaty with the Plishtim, and you gave him 7 lambs. Chayecha. You thought it started this term in today's language? You've heard of the term chayecha? Never, no soldier told you in your army, b'chayecha. Never. So, it's an often expression used today in modern jargon of Hebrew, b'chayecha. But you know what? Usually it's a swear. In Chazal, b'chayecha is a swear. Shani mashhe b'simchat banecha shiva dorot. Wow. Because of the 7 lambs that you gave in, I'm going to delay your national happiness of the Jewish people for 7 generations, which will mean that until 7 generations do not pass, we will not have apparently a king over Israel, if I'm not mistaken, where the Plishtim already have kings already from the time of Avraham Avinu. Davar acher, another interpretation, Ata natata lo sheva kvasot, chayecha, shebanav horgim shivat tzadikim mibanecha. These children of Avimelech, the Plishtim people, they're going to kill 7 of the righteous of your children. Who are they? Who have the Elohim, Shimshon, killed by Plishtim. In Sefer, Shoftim. Chofni u Pinchas, killed by the Plishtim here. Shaul u Shloshet Banav. Okay, where are they killed? In a war on top of which mountain? Har Gilboa. Mount Gilboa, right? Not far from Beit Shan Valley where you were located, right? So here the 7 have a significance later on that it's as if this is a punishment for this. Davar acher, third interpretation. Ata natata lo sheva kvasot. You, Avraham Avinu, gave him 7? Chayecha. She'aroni, my Aron. My Aron HaKodesh. Mechazer will be going around and around b'stei Plishtim for how many months? Shiva chodeshim. Hado dichtiv. This is the proof. Quote: Vayihi Aron Hashem b'stei Plishtim shiva chodeshim. We see that this number 7, which is a complete number, we see clearly here that we're paying a price of what Avraham Avinu does. That happens later on. The Jewish people are, of course, interrelated all the generations. The number 7 here is a payment back for a mistake, apparently, that Avraham Avinu made, entering into a peace treaty with the king of the Plishtim, Mr. Avimelech, Melech Plishtim. Now, the question is, what are the Plishtim doing for action right now? Let's continue. We're in safe.
Generations of all 15, that's what you're saying?
What are you asking about? I think Shivat Dorot, we won't have a king. We won't have a king until the 7th generation, which will be Shaul, apparently, from the time of Avraham. I don't know exactly from the time there. It has to be clarified, really. Pasuk Bet. Vayikru Plishtim lakonim v'lakosmim. So, now, who are they calling out? Who are they calling out? Right, so they're holy people, and the people that understand the pnimiyut. These magicians that they are, or they're sorcerers, they apparently understand, or believe to understand, the pnimiyut of the situation, what is going on. Now, we remember the background to this. The background to this is the Plishtim thought that they had a great victory over Israel, and that their koach and the otzma is great, and therefore they killed key members of the Jewish people. They exiled the Maaseh of the Aaron, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes ahead and hits the Plishtim, hits their God, hits the Plishtim. Tremendous signs. Do they connect or do not connect? Are their spiritual people relating that what happened is because of taking the Aaron or not? It's not so clear that they understand this. And we understood that the fact that they were hitting with hemorrhoids and that achbarim are destroying their cultivated fields, that's bringing down their ego, that's bringing down their psyche, their ga'ava, their great pride that they have in themselves and the God of the Plishtim is now being lowered down. Okay? It's now being lowered down. That's why they're hit with the tchorim, the hemorrhoids, and with achbarim. So they call out to their kosmim saying, what should we do with the Aron Hashem? Hodiyunu, inform us, what should we do? Apparently these people know what's behind the scenes, what's behind the lines, what's the pnimiyut of the situation. Question number one, should we send it? How do I know should we send it? Because here, if you follow their logic of thinking, here, read Pasuk Gimel. Vayomru, they raise the following situation. Im mishalchim et Aron Elokei Yisrael, if we do send it, al tishalchu oto rekam. We shouldn't send it empty-handed. Okay? Ki hashev teshivu lo asham. Notice what they're saying. If we do send it, we should send a guilt offering. Now, no, the Plishtim did not study Chumash Vayikra. They don't know what a guilt offering is. However, they sense guilt, and they feel they have to pacify the Jewish people, and therefore, when God appears here through the prophet, Shmuel the prophet, he has him quoting the term Asham, not because the Plishtim are talking about an Asham offering, but rather they sense a matter of guilt that right now we need kapara, we need something to cleanse ourselves. Don't worry, they didn't use the word guilt, but the word Asham can be a general word of a gift that's coming to provide some sort of atonement of pacifying ourselves. As teirafu, maybe we'll be healed. Okay? A lot of people are suffering with hemorrhoids. A lot of people are dying. V'nodalachem, this matter, if we bring a gift back, with sending it back, maybe it'll be known to them, it'll pacify them. Lama lo tasur yado mikem. This is what they're asking here. Okay? We were hit. Maybe there's a correlation between what we did. Maybe we sinned. Maybe we violated certain things, and we didn't act the right way towards the Aron. Maybe we should send it back with a gift. Vayomru, they're thinking out loud. Pasuk Daled, Masha Machon Meir. What should we send? And now, the other leaders, above and beyond the Kohanim, above and beyond the sorcerers, give an idea. Vayomru mispar sarnei plishtim. Some of their leaders think the following. Let's send back the following. Chamisha tchorei zahav. It's a kriyuchtiv. We talked about it last week. Okay? Meaning, let's build an image out of gold. A psilon, some sort of small pestle image made out of gold that will illustrate what tchorim are about, because that's what we were hit with. V'chamishach barei zahav. Now we're introduced for the first time that there were a makkah, a magifa, a plague of mice in their fields eating their plantations. Why don't we make 5 of them as well? Ki magifa achat luchulam ulesarnechem. They see that these 2 plagues are really one plague, that they were hit from the God of the Aron, and therefore we should send back 5. Anyone have an idea why the number 5? There are 5 Plishtim entities here in southwestern Israel. Right, all this Ashdod, Ashkelon, Ekron, Gat, and what is the 5th? I forgot. Ashdod, Ashkelon, maybe Aza. Could be Ashdod, Ashkelon, Aza, Ekron, and Gat. It could be the 5 cities. So they want to make this like a national gift coming from the 5 leaders of the Plishtim, and maybe this will inspire a kapara for us. They apparently accept this answer, this offer. Pasuk 5, Vasitem. This is the instruction still. Make tzalmei tchorechem Ritzalmeach barechem. And here it's clear, Hamashchitim that destroyed the fields. Hamashchitim et aretz. Unetatem lokei so kavod. Again, this is not going to lift up the name of Israel. They want to pacify the God of Israel. They sense that because of what they did, this brought anger to the God of Israel, the God of the Aron. So right now, the name of Israel is still down low, and they're looking to appease, to pacify the name of the God of Israel. Ulay yakel et yado me'alechem. The Yad. What does Yad represent in the Tanakh? Strength. Maybe the hand of God will alleviate His power from you. Okay? It'll be less in power. He won't strike you anymore. Umi'al Elohechem. And He won't strike your God. Umi'al artzachem. Or your land. 3 entities were hit by the God of Israel. They sensed it. Number 1, their God, their land. And number 3, the people of the Philistine were all hit by them. Furthermore, as far as, the Philistine are not sure yet that what's happening here is by mere incidents, or here is a clear act of godliness against our people, our God, and our land. Maybe we should be stubborn and not, but they know a little history, gentlemen. They know a little history. A few hundred years ago, they know the story of the Egyptians. They know the story of the Egyptians. And what, if Mr. David Hayes would walk into the shore right now with a cup of water, oh wow, thank you so much. What would you say was the initial policy of the Egyptians? Did they give in to the Jewish people in the plagues or not? The Egyptians. What would you say about their heart? What did they do? They strengthened, they hardened their heart. Do you remember the famous Ramban? That the first 5 plagues that Moshe Rabbeinu helped bring from God against the Egyptians, it was Paro himself that hardened his heart. From plague number 6 to plague number 10, the Ramban argues that that's a punishment, that God is taking away the free will of Paro from plague number 6 to plague number 10, and He's hardening his heart. Look what the Philistine say in verse 6. V'lama techabdu et levavchem. Why should you, the leadership, the people here, why should you harden their hearts? Kasher kibdu mitzrayim u'paro et libam, just like the Egyptians and Paro hardened their hearts and didn't give in. Halo kasher ita'alel bahem vayishalchum vayalechu. Just like God used His power against, He laughed at you, He mocked at the Egyptians. What did the Egyptians do eventually? He sent them out. Okay, it was Paro that sent them out. Remember, Paro came out that night, in the middle of the night, midnight, with his pajamas, as the Midrash says, and he tried to send them out, but the Jews, of course, delayed until the morning. Why did we purposely leave only during daytime and not during nighttime? We shouldn't be like what? Ganavim sheyotzim be'emtza halayla, right? We shouldn't appear like thieves, leaving in the middle of the night. Okay? Can we have one Tanakh, another Tanakh? David, we're in Perek Vav. Wow, it's a heavy Tanakh. It's a lot of Tanakh in there. Okay, thank you. So here is the speech by the leadership trying to cause the Philistine people to give in and literally think that the best thing to do right now is send the Aron back with a gift which will be a kapara. After this speech is clear, let's see what the further suggestion is. Pasuk Zayin. Okay, let's start reading again. B'chavod.
You will read Pasuk Vav?
I just read it now. Zayin.
ועשו עגלה חדשה אחת כשתי פרות עלות אשר לא עלה עליהם כל וסרתם את הפירות בעגלה והשבותם פניהם מאחריהם והביתה.
בכבוד, חטא.
ולקחתם את ארון עד השם ונתתם אותו אל העגלה את כלי הזהב אשר השיבותם לו ושם תשימו בארגז לצידו ושילחתם אותו והלכתם.
כן, דוד.
וראיתם אם דרך גבולו יעלה בית שמש, הוא עשה לנו את הרעה הגדולה הזאת, ואם לא ידענו כי לא ידו נגעה בנו מקרה הוא היה לו.
כן, יוד.
ועשו האנשים כן וקבו שתי פרות העלות ועשון בהגלת בית מנחם כעלות בבית.
חנוך, וישימו.
וישימו את אהרון אל העגלה ואת הארגז ואת העכברי, הזהב ואת סרני
תחוריהם. יפה. דוד, וישרנה. י"ב.
וישארנה הפרות בדרך על דרך בית שמש ומסילה אחת הלכו הלוך וגאו ולא סרו ימין ושמאל וסרני פלישתים הולכים אחריהם עד גבול בית שמש.
Okay.
בית שמש.
We're going to prove that by the following suggestions or strategy they're using, the Philistine leadership still has a doubt. Is what happened in their towns something by mere incidents, or is it really a direct result of them taking the Aron of God away? And here we'll see, we'll prove it. For instance, strategy number 1. Let's go back to Pasuk Zayin. The suggestion is to take Agala Chadasha Achat, a new Agala. First of all, why should a new Agala be used to transport the Aron? What is that showing? Respect. Right? It's showing respect. Kavod. Why? Something used for a layman, you don't want to use for something so holy. We have this principle already in Masechet Sanhedrin. And things that are used by a king, we don't use for laymen. And the opposite, things that are used by a layman, we don't use for a kingdom, for a king. So here too, something that, the layman used, it's not worthy to use for something so holy, so genuine. So first of all, they're understanding that there's some kedusha in the Aron, and therefore, that's one reason. But a practical reason, a new agala. Do you play baseball? Did your mom buy you a new glove ever? How do you do when you use a new? It's stiff. I didn't ask you. You said that? You played baseball in your days in that part of the world? I didn't know that. Why don't you tell me? We'll get a team together. So you're right. The glove, the new glove, a leather glove, is very stiff. They say you got to oil it or something.
Put like the ball inside.
Well,
Put rubber bands around it, and then open
rubber bands?
around it.
Really?
Put a ball inside, so it makes the form of the ball.
Really?
Put rubber bands around it, and then overnight it comes the form of the ball.
Wow, I think you have to put a ball and put some oil in there or something like that. That's a chidush. You should write this in your memoirs. Shakoach. What do you think? What do you think? Have you ever had a new agala run by animals? How is a new agala run? Is it like a new car, just runs smoothly and everything? Rather? Squeaky. You have to oil it. You have to rub it. You have to start using it a few times. So test number 1, the strategy. Let's start using a new agala. And it might be even harder to use, right? Strategy number 2, parot alot. The word alot is used in the Tanakh as nursing cows. What do you not use nursing cows for? Work. Pulling a wagon. Transporting. Right? We don't use nursing cows. So that'll even make this strategy harder to move a new agala. Strategy number 3, okay? By the way, these two, you use parot that are nursing a shalo aleim ol. No yoke was ever on their heads. By the way, where do we see this term in the Chumash? Of paraduma. That's right. That never had an ol, never had a yoke. So here, what? No. You're allowed to have. Now. What are you going to do? We're going to tie these parot to. And what are you going to do with their young ones that are nursing? Their children, their little ones, you're going to motion them in the opposite direction back to the ranch. Okay? What is that going to do? You're going to leave these young calves at the stable. What is that going to do? It's going to make the moving of the agala even harder. So you see, the strategy here is showing and proving we're not sure really if this is divinely done or just haphazardly happened to us. Because if it was divinely done, we're going to see God's intervention. That's what they're thinking in their pnimiyut. Then what are we going to do in Pasuk Chet? Okay, ulekachtem et Aron Hashem, unetateu. Again, notice they use keeping the word the Aron of God, the Aron of God. It's a matter of the God of Israel and not the Jewish people whatsoever. Ulekachtem et Aron Hashem utatem to el hagala. They'll connect. They'll put the Aron on top. Vet klei hazahav, the gift that they want to give. Hashevotim lo asham, that you want to bring as an asham, like a guilt offering. Tasimu ba'argaz mitzido, alongside the Aron will be the gift on top of the wagon. Okay? V'shilachtem oto. Now, v'halach, it'll go. Now, who is motioning these animals? Anyone? That randomly happening. They're not putting on Waze, and there's some sort of mechanical or technological device on the necks of the animals, moving them a certain way. Absolutely not. So we're all of the situation. I want to bring to your attention Rashi, source number bet, on this source page. Gimel, thank you. Rashi says the following: Kol ze lenisayon. All of this is for a trial. She'ein elu re'uyot limshoch. These animals are not worthy of pulling the new wagon. Ve'od she'go'ot acharei benem. They're going to be screaming after their young ones. They want to be with their young ones to nurse them. V'imye koch ba'aron. But if they do find out that there's a force, a metaphysical force in the ark, shiolichu oto me'elem, that'll lead them by themselves, neida, then we'll know. What are we going to know? Last words. Shehu asa lanu. Who is who? Hashem. Exactly. This proves that they still have a doubt. And they want to now prove emphatically, clearly, without a doubt, that if this is really because of the God of Israel, then the God will manage and bring back these two cows leading the wagon and gift by themselves. What happens? Pasuk Tet. Uritemim derech v'lo yala Beit Shemesh. Now, where are they? Geographically? We're in a field in a Plishtim, southwestern Israel. Maybe not far from Ekron. Ekron is next to Rehovot? I think so. It's what? Not far from Bnei Rahim. Where's Tel Nov?
That's by Rehovot.
It's by Rehovot. Okay. My son right now is in the Tzanchanim course in Tel Nov for 2 weeks. Maybe this week, if everything works out, then we'll parachute from Tel Nov, from the Air Force. It's tomorrow?
Pretty sure, because it's the second week he's doing it, no?
This is the second week.
So it should be tomorrow, the first.
We're not told. No, it's okay. My wife is not. She already had a son. It was not Unity parachute, and she's since then been Regua. They ordered them back last night. They gave him Shabbos off, but they said they got to be back by last night. In any event, the parent.
Never changed.
What? The army didn't change.
Something's never changed.
Right. The first time, they told us when they're doing it, but they told the parents not to come. So we were very disciplined and we didn't come. But a lot of parents came with their cameras and they sent it on the group chat and this and that, and they saw them coming down. And my son, he calmed down my wife Shabbos night. Says the parachute, and if it doesn't work, there's a spare parachute, and that always works. What? She's a little excited, but then since then she's been calmed down. So they want to make sure that they're now coming up from the Rehovot Ekron area to Beit Shemesh. What's the difference topographically? Where they are right now is the Shvela, the lowland area. Beit Shemesh is called the Low Judean Hills. Beit Shemesh is about 200 to 250 meters above sea level. Okay, it's a climb up, a third up, coming up to Yerushalayim, a little more some other place in Beit Shemesh. So Aleph, it's a direction, and Bet, it's a climb up. So they want to see, let's read it again, Pasuk Tet. Uritemi im derech gvulo yale Beit Shemesh. Let's see if they really go on to the path that'll bring them up to Beit Shemesh, which is in the tribal area of Yehuda. Very good. Okay. Beit Shemesh is Yehuda, absolutely. Okay. There's a road that even connects, Beit Lechem to Beit Shemesh, and so on and so forth. Okay. Where was the war of Goliath against David? Tel Azekah. We were there. Yom Ha'atzmaut. We went there. So Tel Azekah is more or less parallel from Beit Lechem going down. And Tel Azekah is a few kilometers south of Beit Shemesh. That's where the war of David and Goliath is. So that's the entire region of Beit Shemesh. Next to Beit Shemesh is the area of Dan. It's the question you're asking. Like Tzorah, Eshta'o, these areas that we learned about in Sefer Shoftim. Tzorah and Eshta'o were the areas where Shimshon was born, bred, and grown in the area of Dan. So Dan borders Beit Shemesh, but Dan is further south and then going west. So it'll be clear to them that if it does, these animals bring the Agalah to this Beit Shemesh area, then it's clearly that it's God that did all this stuff to us. V'imlo, and if it doesn't happen, v'yadanu, then we'll know for sure. You can't deny it. Kilo yado nagabanu. Then it wasn't God's hand that touched us. Mikrehu, they believe that it could be incidental. So right now, we see the situation, the strategy of the Plishtim, what they're doing, and now what happens? Pasuk Yud. Vayasu Anashim came. They go with the strategy. Vayikhu shtei farot olot. They find in their farms 2 nursing cows. Vayasrum. They tie them ba'agalah. Vet b'neihem kalu b'bayit. What does kalu mean? Tied up, imprisoned, tied up from the word kela, right? They tied them up in the house, and of course the 2 mothers see what's happening, and they should be naturally screaming, wanting to be with their young ones to nurse them. Pasuk Yud Aleph, Vayasimu Taron Hashem el Agalah. They do according to the instructions. The Tanakh here doesn't even bother showing us that it's an Agalah Chadasha, but we can assume that it is a Agalah Chadasha. Okay? In Agalah Chadasha. By the way, if they're saying it's haphazard, it means that we don't know the reason why these things happen to us. We don't know the reason. If we know that it really happens, then this is the reason. We sinned going up against the God of Israel, taking the Aron, and for that we were punished. But if not, there are things that are hidden for us we don't know. So what do? They take the gifts, everything is ready. And now something spiritual happens. Pasuk Yud Bet. The verb used here, Vayisharna haparot baderech. Al derech Beit Shemesh b'msila achat. Halchu haloch v'ga'o v'lo saru yamin u'smol v'sarnei Philistine olchim acharem ad gvul Beit Shemesh. The pshat of the words Vayisharna is lalechet yashar. They go straight. They could be taking a right, they could be taking a left, they don't do it. They're going on a straight path. It seems to be something metaphysical that they're going on. Their very walking is on a straight path. Which path? The road to Beit Shemesh. How? B'mesila achat. In other words, they're walking on this nativ, this path. And there could be a path of Holchei Regel maybe next to it. They're not going on there. They're going on the path that travelers use. Remember, there were stables then, horses, donkeys, ox that were used in these times. They're going on the road that travelers would use with agalot. And they're not going to the right to maybe where pedestrians use or bicyclists are using and so on and so forth. They're going on this road. But how are they going? They're screaming. Halchu, haloch, vigo. They're screaming out. For who are they screaming? For their young ones. Okay? For their young ones. Yet they don't stop. They don't go to the right, to the left. Who is observing all of this? Sarnei Plishtim, the leaders. Holchim achrim ad gvul Beit Shemesh. My dear friends, that is the pshat. The Talmud, however, brings us Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah, source Daled. Okay, the Gemara Avodah Zarah Daf Kaf Daled Amud Bet. Vayisharna Parot. You see it? Derech Beit Shemesh, the quote of the pasuk. The Talmud asks, "My Vayisharna." What does the Tanakh mean by using the word Vayisharna? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yochanan is the first generation Amoraim, the Rosh Hashiva in Tiberia, the author of the Yerushalmi Talmud, and he's saying the name of Rabbi Meir. Okay, we learned about Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Akiva. Where's Rabbi Meir buried? Tiberia. Rabbi Meir Balanes. We were there. We prayed there, Mincha. We had a pizza there. I waited 40. You remember the reason for the long delay?
Yeah, traffic ticket.
No,
You got a traffic.
stop the police.
Yeah.
The police stopped the guy that delivered. We ordered. He delivered, but I don't know. He did an Avera. He got stopped by the cops. Thank God. I was happy that they didn't give us the ticket to pay. They didn't give us the ticket to pay.
Yeah, too much expensive pizza.
I don't know. It was very expensive. Okay. What?
Huh?
They refund us the pizza.
Yeah. What is Vayisharna? Rabbi Meir always gives us the pnimiyut meaning. Sha'amru shira. They sang a song. A song came out of their voices, out of their mouths.
Cows?
Yes, a song of a praise of God. Milashon shar. V'rav Zutra bar Tuvia Marav sheyashru pneihem keneged Aron v'amru shira. Or they turned around their heads and they sang a song when they're looking at the Aron. Uma shira amru. Which shira did they say? Am Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Meir az yashir Moshe uvnei Yisrael. So in a pnimiyut meaning, we see here that a song is sung. And this song is showing us that this is the victory of the Jewish people over our enemies. Like Moshe Rabbeinu did not shoot one bullet, leading the Jewish people over a victory, a military war over the Mitzrim, where God did everything, and the Jewish people sung a song of victory. Right now, the parot are representing happiness of the Jewish people, clearly a metaphysical matter of a victory over these Plishtim, and this is a praise of God. And of course, if God can take a voice box out of the mouth of what's that animal? Bilam's donkey, then God can do this as well. Donkeys don't speak. This is not, Lassie here. No one knows about Lassie? It's a different, you know about Lassie? Or Mr. Ed. You guys know Mr. You got. So you probably have a very poor childhood, all of you. It's okay. People think and imagine that dogs talk and the horses talk. No, it's Hashem. We'll start with this point in Yirtzeh Hashem tomorrow, God willing. Amen. Ken Yirtzeh.